A sharp voice cut through the calm of the Horizon Grand Hotel lobby. "You don't belong here." And it landed like a hammer against the marble floors. Aisha Monroe paused mid-step, her sleek black sneakers silent against the polished stone, her eyes scanning the room with measured calm. She carried no designer purse, no entourage, just a plain tablet and a quiet confidence that seemed to radiate without demanding attention. The guests froze, whispers rippling through the space as some instinctively reached for their phones, capturing every second of the unfolding tension. Behind the front desk, Gregory Vance leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smirk playing across his face as he gestured subtly to his staff. Aisha didn't flinch. She didn't step back. She merely met his gaze with a stillness that was both measured and unyielding, the kind of presence that commands attention without raising its voice. The lobby, a space usually filled with polite nods and hushed conversations, felt charged, every eye on the two of them. A young concierge, Elena Ruiz, hesitated beside the desk, her hand hovering over the intercom, unsure whether to intervene. The air was taut, every detail heightened, the shine of the marble, the subtle scent of fresh flowers, the soft murmur of the hotel's fountain now overshadowed by the weight of the moment. Aisha's mind briefly drifted to her younger self, recalling similar moments where assumptions and biases tried to define her worth. She remembered late nights in conference rooms, the subtle dismissals from colleagues who judged her by her appearance rather than her intellect. Each incident a quiet push to become stronger, smarter, untouchable in her composure. Now, standing in the very lobby she owned, the same eyes that once doubted her were forced to confront the truth of her authority. Gregory's smirk faltered as she took another measured step, her presence anchoring the room without a word. Phones rose higher, whispers grew louder, and the sense of collective observation deepened. Every move she made, from the slow placement of her hand on the tablet to the careful tilt of her head, carried the weight of experience and confidence. Guests leaned forward, some holding their breath, sensing the quiet storm about to unfold. The staff, previously confident in their ability to intimidate, hesitated, the first cracks in their composure showing. Aisha Monroe didn't speak, but the room seemed to listen, every slight gesture amplifying the authority she had carried silently for decades. The moment stretched, not in noise but in intensity, a slow build-up that promised change, a shift in the balance that had for too long favored doubt over fact. And as the lobby held its collective breath, Aisha's eyes flicked toward her phone, a subtle signal to her assistant that the time had come. The calm before the storm was nearly over, and every observer knew that what would follow in the next few minutes would rewrite the rules of who held power in this space. Aisha Monroe stood silently for a moment, letting the weight of the lobby settle around her. Gregory Vance, still leaning against the polished counter, straightened his posture, trying to regain composure, but his voice betrayed a flicker of uncertainty as he called over Lauren Hayes. "Make sure she does not disrupt other guests." Aisha's gaze shifted to the guests observing the scene, each pair of eyes wide with curiosity and surprise. A few discreetly raised their phones, capturing the tension, the uncertainty, and the stillness that seemed to radiate from her. Elena Ruiz, the young concierge, stepped slightly forward, her fingers hovering over the intercom, a silent acknowledgment that she understood the truth of who Aisha was, the truth Gregory had tried to hide. The lobby felt smaller, charged with an energy that was invisible but palpable, a current running through every guest, every employee, every movement. Aisha's mind recalled the countless times she had been underestimated, dismissed, and questioned simply because of appearances, every memory a quiet building block of the authority she now projected effortlessly. The staff who had assumed they were in control began to hesitate, their scripted gestures faltering, their confidence replaced by the subtle realization that the rules had changed. Aisha took a measured step forward, the soft click of her tablet case against her hip echoing in the lobby like a metronome, marking the rhythm of a shift in power. Gregory's lips tightened, his eyes darting to the other employees, searching for validation, for a plan to regain the upper hand. But no one moved, everyone frozen in the presence of something undeniable. A gentle murmur ran through the guests, some whispering to each other, some nodding slightly, as if to affirm a shared understanding of the moment unfolding before them. Aisha's lips curved into the faintest suggestion of a smile, not at him, not at the staff, but at the certainty that the truth was about to manifest fully, and she had orchestrated it without a single raised voice. Her fingers lightly tapped the screen of her tablet, sending a silent signal to her assistant, Nia Thompson, stationed 3 blocks away in the corporate office, confirming the activation of executive override protocols. The lobby screens flickered, displaying the verification of her reservation, the executive status clearly indicated, and the access to every staff terminal was now under her authority. The staff, once confident, now exchanged glances filled with disbelief, their gestures halting mid-motion. Aisha adjusted her posture, standing taller, her presence anchoring the room, her calm a sharp contrast to the anxiety spreading quietly through the employees. Guests leaned slightly forward, their attention undivided, absorbing every motion, every unspoken word, every subtle shift in the energy of the space. The slow but undeniable acknowledgment of her power began to ripple outward, each person sensing the transformation, the authority no longer theoretical but realized, immediate, undeniable. Elena stepped closer to Aisha, subtly signaling to the staff and the guests alike that the truth was now visible, that the veneer of control held by Gregory and his team was slipping, that the narrative had changed, and that every eye in the lobby now understood that the woman before them had the power she had always carried. Aisha did not speak. She did not need to. The presence, the calm, the preparation, and the truth had combined into a force more compelling than any words could convey, leaving the lobby suspended in anticipation, on the cusp of witnessing the next step, the moment when all doubts would dissolve and the full extent of justice would become evident. Aisha Monroe lifted her head slowly, letting her gaze sweep across every guest, every staff member, and Gregory Vance, whose confident posture now seemed fragile. Her voice, calm yet piercing, broke the tense silence. "You called me a fraud in the hotel I own." The words hung in the air, each syllable carrying decades of experience, preparation, and quiet authority. Phones tilted upward, recording every reaction, every flicker of unease in the eyes of the staff. Guests whispered among themselves, murmurs growing into a low hum of realization that this was not just a confrontation, but a reckoning long overdue. Elena Ruiz stepped closer, subtle but unwavering, confirming Aisha's status with a gentle nod, her eyes signaling to the employees that the truth had arrived and no pretense could stand against it. Gregory shifted slightly, his confidence waning, his staff looking at each other for reassurance that was not coming, hesitation creeping into gestures that had been automatic moments ago. Aisha's calm persisted, her posture straight, the tilt of her chin deliberate, every movement commanding attention without a single raised voice. She remembered all the times subtle dismissals had attempted to define her, the repeated assumptions, the questioning of her authority because of her appearance, each memory reinforcing the quiet power she now wielded effortlessly. The lobby felt alive, every detail magnified, the marble floors gleaming, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the subtle scent of fresh flowers, all now part of a charged environment where truth and authority collided. Aisha reached for her tablet again, a silent signal to Nia Thompson, her assistant monitoring remotely, confirming that all protocols had been engaged, access rights verified, and executive overrides active. Screens in the lobby reflected her authority, each terminal confirming her control, while the staff's composure crumbled under the weight of undeniable reality. Guests leaned forward slightly, some capturing every motion, some simply observing, every eye absorbing the shift in power that had quietly taken hold. Gregory's attempts at reclaiming command faltered, words caught in his throat as he realized that control had passed beyond gestures and hierarchy to the undeniable truth before him. The soft ripple of acknowledgment from the lobby, subtle but growing, marked the beginning of a collective awareness that the woman standing calmly, yet firmly before them held not only the title, but the proof of her authority. Every hesitant movement from the staff, every whispered comment from guests, served to amplify the silent declaration of power Aisha embodied, a force built from patience, intellect, and unwavering composure. leaving the lobby suspended in a tense expectation of the final steps that would cement justice and respect in a space she had long owned and led. Aisha Monroe exhaled slowly, the stillness of her body conveying more authority than any raised voice could achieve. Gregory Vance, sensing the shift in the room, stepped back slightly, his fingers twitching over the phone at his belt, unsure whether to call for confirmation or retreat. Guests remained attentive, their whispers now tinged with awe rather than curiosity, their phones steady as they captured the unfolding reality. The lobby air felt heavier, charged with the recognition of a truth that had always existed but had been repeatedly ignored. Aisha's eyes scanned the employees individually, their hesitation and discomfort growing with every measured second she allowed to pass. Lauren Hayes froze mid-step, her hand still hovering over a key card, while Kevin Patel's confident posture wilted as he realized that protocol and hierarchy could not override the undeniable authority before them. Elena Ruiz subtly shifted closer to Aisha, a quiet ally, her presence reinforcing the unspoken understanding that the balance of power had irrevocably changed. Aisha's lips curved slightly, a faint acknowledgment of the years of preparation and the meticulous timing that had brought her to this moment. She did not rush, she did not demand. She merely existed in the space with a precision and clarity that made every observer aware of her position and influence. A soft click from her tablet indicated communication with Nia Thompson, confirming that executive access was now fully active, every employee terminal and credential reflecting her control. The guests, sensing the orchestration, leaned forward, their murmurs blending into a quiet chorus of awareness and respect. Gregory's attempts at control faltered, his voice a distant echo against the certainty of Aisha's calm dominance. Each movement from the staff was now cautious, deliberate, as if measured against the weight of undeniable authority, and each gesture of uncertainty highlighted the silent strength that radiated from Aisha. The lobby, once merely a place of transit, now felt like the stage of a lesson in composure, patience, and power, where every detail, the polished floors, the subtle floral scents, the soft light filtering through the windows, served to frame the clarity and certainty of her command. Aisha did not need to announce every decision. The very presence of her calm decisively communicated her intentions. Guests and employees alike recognized the shift, the moment where hesitation met preparation, where doubt met undeniable authority, and where every element in the room responded to a power that had always been present yet never so visible. In that charged space, every eye remained on Aisha Monroe, waiting, watching, absorbing the demonstration of quiet yet unassailable command that promised consequences, resolution, and recognition for the patience, skill, and authority she had always carried. Aisha Monroe shifted her weight slightly, her gaze sweeping the lobby as if cataloging every expression, every movement, every hint of doubt and recognition. Gregory Vance's face, once smug and assured, now betrayed the slightest hesitation, his posture tightening as he sensed the invisible tide turning against him. Guests leaned in subtly, some craning their necks to see the screens displaying her verified executive status, their whispers growing into quiet acknowledgment that the woman in front of them held not only the title, but the absolute authority of the space. Elena Ruiz, standing near the edge of the front desk, made no sound, but her eyes communicated everything, a silent affirmation to the staff and guests alike that the moment of truth had arrived. Aisha's calm did not falter. She took a deliberate step closer to the counter, her movement precise, measured, and commanding attention without a single word. The lobby lights reflected softly off her tablet as she tapped the screen, signaling to Nia Thompson that every access point was now secured under her authority, every terminal and credential responding to her command. Staff members exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier confidence replaced by the subtle tension of awareness that they were now observed by a power they had underestimated. Lauren Hayes froze mid-action, keys dangling from her hand, while Kevin Patel's shoulders slumped slightly, a silent acknowledgment of the shift he could neither contest nor ignore. Guests, sensing the orchestration, remained still, their murmurs fading into a quiet focus on the unfolding reality, their cameras capturing not drama, but a demonstration of composure, patience, and unwavering control. Aisha's mind traced back to each challenge, each dismissal, each assumption she had faced because of her appearance, each one contributing to the quiet strength she now projected effortlessly. The lobby itself seemed to respond to her presence. The polished floors, the gentle hum of air conditioning, the subtle aroma of fresh flowers, all framing the scene as a testament to authority exercised with clarity and restraint. She did not need to raise her voice. The magnitude of her influence was evident in the pause of each gesture, the hesitation of each step, the quiet attentiveness of every eye upon her. Gregory's attempts to assert control were reduced to small, ineffective gestures, his staff caught between procedural training and the undeniable reality that the woman in front of them was the rightful authority. Aisha's faint smile, almost imperceptible, conveyed decades of preparation and strategic patience, the understanding that timing, calm, and precision could achieve what force never could. The lobby hung in this charged anticipation, each breath of the guests, each movement of the staff, each flicker of awareness contributing to the building crescendo, a collective understanding that the quiet assertion of power had transformed the room completely. Aisha Monroe remained poised, her presence a slow but undeniable declaration that control, respect, and justice had been restored not through confrontation, but through the mastery of composure and the certainty of authority, leaving the entire lobby suspended in expectation, every observer fully aware that the next moments would solidify the consequences and recognition that had long been due. Aisha Monroe shifted her weight slightly, her presence commanding the space without a single raised word, every detail of the lobby responding to her calm authority. Gregory Vance, now visibly unsettled, glanced toward his staff, seeking reassurance or a plan, but their faces mirrored his uncertainty, frozen in silent acknowledgment that the balance had irrevocably shifted. Guests leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide, some adjusting their phones to capture the precise moment when decorum met undeniable authority. Elena Ruiz, moving subtly closer, offered a quiet affirmation with a nod, reinforcing to both the staff and the observers that truth and preparation had triumphed over assumption and pretense. Aisha's gaze swept methodically across each employee, registering hesitation and discomfort as they realized their prior confidence was no longer relevant, their scripted motions halted by the weight of demonstrated expertise and strategic calm. The lobby felt charged, each whisper from the guests, each careful breath, every subtle gesture from the staff building a tense awareness that something extraordinary was occurring. Aisha moved slowly toward the center of the space, her steps deliberate, her posture upright, the faintest smile of composure forming, conveying both acknowledgment and quiet command. The subtle hum of the lobby, the polished marble reflecting soft light, the faint floral scent all combined to frame a scene of authority fully realized. Her fingers brushed the edge of her tablet, sending a final signal to Nia Thompson that all systems were engaged, every access verified, and every credential secured, establishing a control that left no room for dispute. Gregory's attempts to maintain dominance faltered, his gestures small and ineffectual, a stark contrast to the precise, measured movements of Aisha, whose authority needed no declaration beyond the calm consistency of her actions. Guests shifted slightly, their attention unwavering, absorbing the demonstration of patience, foresight, and command that radiated without interruption. Each hesitant glance from the staff underscored the quiet truth that authority could be asserted without force, through preparation, composure, and the undeniable evidence of rightful power. Aisha Monroe remained the center of focus, every aspect of her being radiating a controlled and deliberate energy that drew the eyes and attention of all present, leaving the lobby suspended in a collective recognition that a moment of transformation was unfolding. Every subtle movement, every faint gesture, every controlled step communicated the certainty that the forthcoming resolution would fully restore respect, clarify boundaries, and deliver the recognition long overdue, leaving each person present acutely aware that the next moments would solidify the consequences of prior assumptions and the full measure of her authority. Aisha Monroe's eyes scanned the lobby once more, catching the smallest shifts in posture, The briefest exchanges of glances between staff members who now recognized the authority that had been quietly asserted. Gregory Vance straightened uncomfortably, his voice faltering as he attempted to speak, but Aisha's calm gaze anchored him, halting the words before they could fully form. The guests, sensing the tension, leaned in subtly, some stepping closer, others adjusting their phones to capture the decisive moment, their whispers forming a background chorus of realization and anticipation. Elena Ruiz, standing near the side of the desk, maintained her silent affirmation, every nod, every subtle gesture reinforcing to the staff that truth and preparation had prevailed. Aisha moved with deliberate pacing, each step measured, the soft click of her shoes against the marble floor amplifying the gravity of her presence. Her fingers brushed her tablet, sending a silent, precise signal to Nia Thompson, confirming that executive access protocols were fully engaged, every terminal under her command, every staff credential accounted for. The staff exchanged nervous glances, hesitation creeping into movements that had previously been automatic, the careful choreography of compliance now disrupted by the undeniable reality of authority. Lauren Hayes froze mid-action, keys dangling from her fingers, while Kevin Patel's posture slumped slightly as he absorbed the weight of the moment, realizing that the quiet composure of Aisha had outweighed their attempts at control. The guests remained observant, captivated by the demonstration of calm, preparation, and strategic authority that unfolded without a single raised voice, the tension punctuated only by subtle gestures and the quiet affirmation of reality. Aisha's mind briefly recalled the years of meticulous planning, the countless occasions she had been underestimated, dismissed, or judged on appearances alone, each experience now manifesting in a controlled, purposeful presence that commanded attention effortlessly. The lobby itself seemed to respond to her, the soft reflection of light on the marble, the gentle hum of the air conditioning, the faint scent of flowers combining to create an environment that framed her authority without distraction. Gregory's attempts to regain dominance were minimal, gestures reduced to slight, ineffective movements, starkly contrasted by the deliberate, precise actions of Aisha Monroe. Every observer in the lobby, from guests to staff, registered the transformation, the shift in power conveyed entirely through posture, presence, and the unspoken command of competence and preparation. Aisha's subtle smile, imperceptible to some but significant to those paying attention, indicated that the orchestration was nearing its climax, the authority fully established, the awareness of those present now aligning with the truth she had always embodied. The lobby hung in suspense, every breath, every quiet movement reinforcing the gravity of the moment, the unyielding certainty of Aisha's control setting the stage for the next unfolding of consequences and acknowledgment that had long been due, leaving a palpable sense of anticipation for the resolution of the confrontation that had begun with a single dismissive sentence. Aisha Monroe paused at the center of the lobby, her presence anchoring the room as every guest and staff member held their collective breath. Gregory Vance's confident posture wavered as he watched the subtle shift in authority, each of his gestures now measured, restrained, uncertain. The guests leaned in, their whispers blending into a quiet chorus of recognition, some discreetly raising phones to capture the moment, their eyes wide with the understanding that they were witnessing an exercise in calm, calculated power. Elena Ruiz, moving with precise timing, positioned herself slightly closer to Aisha, reinforcing through a silent yet deliberate presence that the truth had been revealed and authority was fully realized. Aisha's gaze swept across the room, cataloging every expression, every sign of hesitation, every hint of acknowledgment, her movements deliberate and measured, conveying control without a single word. Her fingers tapped lightly on the tablet, signaling to Nia Thompson that all systems were engaged, every terminal and credential aligned. With her command, leaving no room for dispute, the staff exchanged nervous glances, gestures halted mid-motion as the awareness of undeniable authority settled over them, disrupting the patterns of confidence they had assumed were immutable. The lobby itself seemed to respond, the polished marble reflecting soft light, the gentle hum of the air conditioning blending with the subtle floral scent to frame a space in which power and calm coexisted in perfect harmony. Guests remained silent, eyes fixed, absorbing the demonstration of patience, strategic control, and composure that required no raised voice to convey its depth. Gregory's attempts to regain footing were minimal, gestures small and ineffective, underscoring the contrast between uncertainty and the deliberate precision with which Aisha occupied the space. Every slight movement, every hesitant glance from the staff, every whispered reaction from the observers reinforced the truth of her authority, the inevitability of recognition that had been quietly asserted. Aisha's faint smile, almost imperceptible, reflected the culmination of years of preparation, of moments where assumptions had underestimated her and her competence, each experience now visible through the calm assurance she projected. The lobby hung in a suspended state of anticipation, every subtle motion, every attentive gaze emphasizing the quiet but absolute command she had brought to the space. The soft alignment of attention, the unspoken acknowledgment from every observer, the careful observation of each staff member created a palpable understanding that the next steps would not only confirm her authority, but establish a precedent of respect, recognition, and the irreversible rebalancing of a room that had moments before questioned her place within it. Every detail, from the reflective floors to the gentle scent of flowers, reinforced the clarity, the precision, and the undeniable presence of Aisha Monroe, leaving every person present aware that the moment of full acknowledgment and consequence was imminent. Aisha Monroe's hand hovered over her tablet for a brief second, the subtle tap signaling to Nia Thompson that all executive overrides were active and fully verified. The lobby seemed to hold its breath, the polished marble reflecting the soft light and amplifying the tension that stretched across the space. Gregory Vance's confident posture had dissolved into a cautious stance, his attempts to assert control reduced to subtle gestures that failed to regain authority. Guests leaned forward, eyes wide, some capturing video, others simply absorbing the display of calm precision and strategic dominance. Elena Ruiz remained close, her silent presence reinforcing to staff and guests that the authority Aisha projected was genuine and undeniable. Each employee paused, realizing the protocols they had relied on were now aligned with Aisha's command, their previous assumptions challenged by the clarity of her actions. Aisha took a measured step, her voice remaining quiet but deliberate as she addressed the room. Every detail has been verified, every action under my oversight, and the integrity of this space is restored. The words, though spoken softly, carried weight, each syllable reinforcing the shift in power and the recognition of her rightful authority. Guests exchanged glances, the realization settling in that what they were witnessing was not mere confrontation, but an exercise in composed, deliberate, and just control. Gregory's attempts to speak were halted by the room itself, the collective acknowledgement of authority leaving no space for dispute. Aisha's mind briefly reflected on the years of preparation, the subtle lessons learned from being underestimated, the resilience built from repeated dismissals, and how each experience had converged to create the calm, unshakable presence she now embodied. The soft murmur of air, the faint scent of fresh flowers, and the reflection of light across the polished floors combined to frame her authority with a quiet, cinematic clarity. Staff members moved cautiously, each gesture measured against the recognition that their prior confidence was insufficient to challenge her. Every subtle nod from Elena, every attentive glance from the guests, reinforced the unspoken understanding that Aisha Monroe held full command, that the protocols in place supported her, and that any attempt to oppose her would be immediately evident to all observers. The lobby was suspended in a moment of poised anticipation, each breath, each movement, and each glance contributing to the crescendo of recognition, a collective awareness that the resolution of the confrontation was imminent, and that the consequences of prior assumptions would now be addressed with precision, fairness, and the undeniable demonstration of her authority. Aisha Monroe lifted her gaze, letting her eyes meet each person in the lobby, each glance a quiet command, a reminder of the authority she carried with effortless clarity. Gregory Vance's smirk had long vanished, replaced by a tension that betrayed his uncertainty, his gestures now minimal, ineffective, and hesitant as he realized the balance of power had fully shifted. Guests leaned forward, their attention unwavering, some adjusting phones to capture the silent but unmistakable assertion of control, others simply observing the demonstration of composed authority. Elena Ruiz maintained her close presence, a subtle anchor reinforcing to staff and onlookers that the moment had arrived and that Aisha's command was absolute. Staff members, previously confident and assertive, now paused in their actions, each movement measured against the unmistakable presence of competence and experience that radiated from Aisha. The soft murmur of conversation among guests grew into a quiet acknowledgment of the situation, a collective understanding that authority, when executed with precision and calm, spoke louder than any raised voice could. Aisha's fingers traced the edge of her tablet, sending a signal to Nia Thompson that every access point was fully verified and under control, reinforcing the irreversible shift in the lobby's hierarchy. Every subtle shift in posture, every hesitant gesture, and every quiet glance among staff highlighted the unassailable presence she projected, the preparation and poise that had brought her to this precise moment. The lobby itself seemed to respond, the polished floors reflecting light in a way that highlighted her movement, the faint floral scent emphasizing the calm, yet powerful atmosphere she commanded. Gregory's attempts to assert authority were now reduced to muted motions, the room itself amplifying the contrast between his uncertainty and the deliberate, unshakable composure of Aisha Monroe. Each guest, whether filming or simply observing, understood the significance of the moment, the culmination of patience, strategy, and clarity that made authority undeniable. Aisha's subtle smile, barely perceptible but meaningful to those attuned, conveyed decades of experience, of lessons learned from underestimation, dismissal, and persistent bias, each contributing to the calm force she now embodied. The lobby held in collective anticipation, every movement, every breath, every attentive glance contributing to the building recognition that the forthcoming actions would not only restore order but assert justice, respect, and clarity in a space that had long questioned her presence. Every detail, the reflective marble, the gentle hum of the air conditioning, the soft light, and the scent of fresh flowers, framed the moment with cinematic precision, highlighting the quiet authority and deliberate mastery of presence that defined Aisha Monroe. As she paused, the room seemed suspended, every observer acutely aware that the next steps would solidify consequences, enforce recognition, and leave an enduring imprint of competence, composure, and rightful power that could not be ignored or disputed. Aisha Monroe took a slow breath, letting her presence dominate the lobby with calm authority, every eye fixed on her movements, and every gesture conveying control and precision. Gregory Vance shifted uneasily behind the counter, realizing that his prior confidence had been undermined by the quiet but undeniable assertion of power radiating from Aisha. The guests watched intently, some lifting their phones to record, while others simply absorbed the moment, the room vibrating with the collective awareness that a significant shift in control had occurred. Elena Ruiz remained close to Aisha, her subtle movements and attentive posture reinforcing to everyone present that the authority in the room was absolute and well-established. Staff members exchanged hesitant glances, their routine motions halted by the realization that their assumptions had been overturned by composure, strategy, and meticulous preparation. Aisha's fingers brushed the tablet screen, sending a silent confirmation to Nia Thompson, ensuring that every access point and system in the hotel was aligned with her command, a reminder that the authority she held was operational and irreversible. The lobby, polished marble floors reflecting the soft light, air conditioning humming quietly, and the faint scent of flowers, seemed to frame her presence, amplifying the perception of calm, yet undeniable command. Gregory's attempts to assert any control were minimized to subtle, ineffective gestures, his voice quiet, almost lost against the weight of Aisha's poise and the collective recognition of the guests and staff. Each step she took, deliberate and measured, communicated confidence, preparedness, and the quiet finality of authority. Aisha's gaze swept across every employee, capturing hesitation, acknowledgment, and subtle acceptance, every observer understanding that the power dynamic had shifted irrevocably. The guests, some whispering, some observing silently, sensed the significance of this demonstration, realizing that authority can be exercised through calm, deliberate action rather than confrontation or theatrics. Aisha's slight smile, almost imperceptible, reflected years of experience, resilience, and strategy coming together, a quiet but powerful affirmation that every prior dismissal and assumption had only prepared her for this precise moment. The lobby hung in anticipation, every breath, every glance, every subtle movement reinforcing the understanding that recognition, respect, and resolution were imminent. Aisha Monroe remained the center of focus, every detail, from the reflective floors to the soft lighting and subtle floral scent, reinforcing the clarity, precision, and authority she wielded. Guests and staff alike observed the unfolding of controlled power, patience, and strategic composure, a demonstration that would solidify respect and establish a precedent for how authority and presence must be recognized. The room, suspended in the quiet tension of acknowledgment, reflected the inevitability that the next moments would confirm not only authority, but the rightful consequences and recognition that had long been due, leaving every observer aware that the balance of power had been restored and fully realized in a manner that was undeniable, composed, and precise. Aisha Monroe stood firmly at the center of the lobby, her presence radiating calm authority, every gesture deliberate and precise, commanding the attention of guests and staff alike. Gregory Vance shifted uneasily, his previous confidence fading as he realized the undeniable shift in control, his gestures minimized, ineffective, as he attempted to regain composure. The guests, captivated by the unfolding situation, leaned slightly forward, some adjusting phones to capture the decisive moment, others simply observing the display of quiet, measured power. Elena Ruiz remained close, her subtle movements and unwavering focus reinforcing the recognition of authority, a silent acknowledgment to the staff that Aisha's command was absolute. Staff members, previously confident in their ability to manage the situation, paused in their actions, each movement measured against the awareness that authority had been redefined in the space, their earlier assumptions overturned by composure, strategy, and preparation. Aisha's fingers hovered lightly over her tablet, signaling to Nia Thompson that all executive access points and system overrides were fully active, leaving no room for dispute or confusion, reinforcing her control with precise efficiency. The soft hum of the air conditioning, the polished marble reflecting the soft light, and the faint scent of fresh flowers framed the space, amplifying the impact of her presence and the quiet tension in the room. Gregory's attempts to assert influence faltered completely, his voice quiet, gestures minimal, the room itself underscoring the contrast between hesitation and the deliberate authority projected by Aisha. Each step she took was controlled, her posture impeccable, and her gaze swept methodically across every individual, capturing subtle acknowledgments, hesitation, and recognition of her rightful authority. Guests whispered softly among themselves, the murmurs blending into a collective awareness that the demonstration of power was rooted in preparation, patience, and undeniable competence. Aisha's slight smile, almost imperceptible, conveyed the culmination of years of resilience, strategy, and composure, each prior dismissal and underestimation now a component of the poised power she embodied. The lobby hung in anticipation, every breath, glance, and subtle movement reinforcing the realization that recognition, respect, and resolution were imminent. Every aspect of the room, the reflective floors, the filtered light, the scent of fresh flowers, the soft hum of air, seemed to respond to her presence, framing the scene with clarity and cinematic precision. Staff and guests alike observed the unfolding assertion of authority, understanding that the forthcoming steps would solidify consequences, establish recognition, and ensure that the balance of power, previously questioned, was restored in a manner that was composed, deliberate, and unequivocally undeniable. Aisha Monroe remained at the center, embodying the perfect synthesis of patience, strategy, and quiet dominance, leaving the room suspended in an awareness that the resolution and acknowledgment of her authority were now fully within her control. Aisha Monroe stood in the center of the lobby, every detail of her posture radiating authority as the last traces of uncertainty settled from the room. Gregory Vance, his earlier confidence completely diminished, glanced at the guests and staff, realizing that control had permanently shifted. Elena Ruiz remained close, her silent affirmation of Aisha's authority evident in her steady, attentive presence, a signal to the staff that the truth of the situation was now undeniable. Guests observed intently, some holding phones to capture the moment, others simply leaning in to absorb the demonstration of composed, deliberate, and undeniable power. Aisha's fingers tapped lightly on her tablet, confirming to Nia Thompson that every executive protocol had been executed, every terminal and credential locked under her command, leaving no room for doubt or error. The lobby, polished marble reflecting soft light, the gentle hum of the air conditioning, and the faint scent of fresh flowers framed the space perfectly, highlighting the shift in authority and the calm precision with which it was being exercised. Staff members exchanged hesitant glances, their movements now cautious, each pause a recognition of the calculated control Aisha embodied. Gregory attempted subtle gestures, but they were small, ineffective, and the room itself seemed to amplify the contrast between his uncertainty and Aisha's deliberate composure. Every guest and employee was keenly aware that what had been a display of confrontation had transformed into a testament of strategic mastery, patience, and resilience. Aisha's gaze swept methodically across the lobby, acknowledging the slight nods, the hesitation, the understanding that authority had been reaffirmed not through noise or spectacle, but through meticulous preparation and unwavering calm. The room seemed suspended, every breath, every shift in posture, every glance reinforcing the quiet recognition that justice and respect had been restored. Aisha Monroe's slight, measured smile reflected decades of experience, of lessons learned from being underestimated, dismissed, and judged by appearances alone, each contributing to the precise, composed power she now projected. Guests whispered softly to one another, their murmurs forming a backdrop to the demonstration of authority that required no shouting, no dramatics, only presence, preparation, and calm decisiveness. The lobby itself seemed to embrace the moment, light reflecting off the polished surfaces, subtle floral scents accentuating the calm intensity of the space, every element contributing to the perception of clear, undeniable command. Staff and guests alike registered the permanence of the shift, understanding that the next steps would confirm recognition, establish respect, and cement the consequences of previous assumptions. Aisha remained poised, every movement deliberate, every glance precise, embodying the culmination of patience, strategy, and authority in a way that left no observer uncertain. The room suspended in acknowledgment, anticipation, and complete awareness that the balance of power had been irrevocably restored to her hands, and that the final resolution, though unspoken, was fully realized.